Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really pivotal section of Chinua Achebe's classic novel, Things Fall Apart. We're going to look at those precise moments where a society starts to, well, fracture, all under the weight of a powerful new force. This line right here from Okonkwo's good friend Obierica, wow, it just perfectly captures the tragedy we're about to get into. He has put a knife on the things that held us together. Think about that. It's not just about some outside attack. No, this is about a culture unraveling from the inside out.
All right, so here's how we're going to break this down. We'll start with the arrival of the Christian missionaries in the village of Mbanta. Then we'll trace the conflicts that pop up. And finally, we'll see just how much everything has changed by the time Okonkwo gets back home to Umuofia.
So, let's set the scene. Our story really kicks off while Okonkwo is in the middle of his 7-year exile in his motherland in Mbanta. And the first sign of this coming storm, it doesn't arrive with a bang. It's quiet. Just 6 missionaries, one of them a white man, showing up to preach a very strange, very new faith.
And right away, the clash begins. You've got two worldviews that just cannot coexist. On one hand, you have the intricate Igbo spiritual system. We're talking powerful earth gods, revered ancestors, the whole shebang. And on the other hand, a really stark message that says all of that is worthless. It calls their sacred objects nothing more than wood and stone. You can see right away, there's just no room for compromise here.
Now, at first, the clan leaders, they're not too worried. Why? Because the first people to convert are the Efaful. These are, well, the text calls them worthless, empty men, guys with no titles, no land, no respect. So in the clan's eyes, it makes sense. Of course only a worthless man would abandon his ancestors. But you know what? This confidence, it turns out to be their greatest blind spot. But the thing is, the missionaries' message, especially their hymns, it starts to take root in some really unexpected places. Take Okonkwo's son, Nuoi. Here's a kid who's always been haunted by some of his clan's harsher customs, like the idea of leaving twins to die in the forest. For him, this new faith, it's like a balm. It offers an answer to that vague and persistent question that's been nagging at him, something his own culture just couldn't provide.
Okay, so the elders in Mbanta see this new faith as a threat, and they want to contain it. So they come up with what they think is a really clever plan. They say, sure, you can have some land to build your church, but it's not just any old plot of land. Oh no, they give them a piece of the dreaded evil forest.
And make no mistake, this was a test, a big one. The evil forest was basically the clan's spiritual dumping ground. It's a place filled with darkness, where they bury people who die of awful diseases. It's feared, a place they believe is crawling with angry gods and evil spirits. So the elders are thinking, problem solved. They fully expect these missionaries to be dead within 4 days, tops.
But the plan backfires in a big way. 4 days pass, the missionaries are fine. A week passes, the absolute limit for their God's wrath, and they're still alive. And when 28 days go by and the missionaries are not just surviving but thriving, a brand new, powerful idea starts to creep into people's minds. Wait a minute, maybe the white man's God is stronger than ours. And just like that, the church scores its first and maybe its most important victory.
And this is where we see the first deep, personal crack appear. And it's right inside Okonkwo's own family. The moment he finds out Nuoye has been hanging around the Christians, his reaction is just swift and brutal. He doesn't ask questions. He doesn't try to understand. He just grabs a stick and goes straight to violence, the one thing he's always trusted. And that single act of rage, it doesn't just push Nuoye away. It severs that father-son bond for good.
So the church isn't just surviving in the evil forest anymore. It's actually starting to thrive. And the way it gains strength is by using a really powerful strategy. It starts welcoming the very people that Igbo society has rejected. And, as you can probably guess, this creates a whole new set of much deeper conflicts.
So the next major turning point, it happens when the church opens its doors to the Osu. Now the Osu are the clan's outcasts. They're considered taboo, a permanent underclass that no one is allowed to marry or even be buried with. But the new church, it doesn't just tolerate them, it gives them a place of honor.
The interpreter, a man named Mr. Kiaga, preaches this message of radical equality, and it completely flips the clan's social structure on its head. Imagine you're one of the Asu. You've only ever known shame and rejection your whole life, and then you hear this idea that before God you are equal, that you are also a child of God. That's not just a new idea,
It's the most revolutionary thing you've ever heard. And this immediately causes a crisis, not just with the clan, but inside the church itself. Even the first converts, the Efulefu, are horrified. They're like, what will people say if they hear we're letting Osu in? But Mr. Kiaga, he stands firm. He refuses to back down on this core belief. And that strong stance, it not only keeps his little church from falling apart, it actually makes it strong.
Well, the tension finally snaps, and it's over an act that is just unthinkable. There's a rumor that one of the converts killed the sacred royal python. Now, you gotta understand, the python wasn't just some animal. It was believed to be sacred, a living part of a god. So for someone to kill it on purpose, that wasn't just a crime. It was a declaration of war on their entire belief system. And that was the last straw. The clan decides they've had enough.
All right, fast forward a bit. Okonwo's 7-year exile is finally over. To say thank you to his mother's family, he throws this huge, magnificent feast. It's his way of showing gratitude, but it's also a big display of the wealth and status he's planning to take back with him to his own village.
But the feast doesn't end on a happy note. It ends with this kind of dark warning. One of the oldest men in the clan stands up, and instead of just thanking Okonkwo for the food, he voices this deep, profound fear. He sees that this new religion, it's breaking the bonds of kinship. It's pulling sons away from their fathers, and he's worried for the future of the whole clan.
So Okonkwo has been dreaming about this for 7 long years. A triumphant return to Umuofia. He's got these grand plans to rebuild his compound, take more titles, and restore his high status. But the Umuofia he comes back to, it's not the one he left. That little crack he saw starting in Banta? Well, back in his own village, it's become a massive, gaping chasm.
And you can see just how much has changed. The church in Umuofia is bigger and more powerful now. But it's not just the church. A whole white man's government has been set up. They've got a court of law that judges cases without any understanding of Igbo customs. They've even built a prison for anyone who breaks these new laws. It shows you, the church was never just about religion. It was the leading edge of a whole new system of power.
And this brings us right back to his friend Obiarika's tragic point. He basically tells Okonkwo it's too late to fight them. He explains that the white man was clever. He didn't just show up with guns blazing. No, he came quietly with his religion, and he used it to divide them, to turn brother against brother. He shattered the one thing that made the clan strong, their unity.
And so, this leaves us with the central and pretty heartbreaking question of the whole novel, doesn't it? When two cultures collide like this, does one of them have to fall apart? Chinua Achebe doesn't really give us an easy answer, but what he does is show us with such devastating clarity how when you start pulling on the threads that hold a society together, the whole thing can unravel.